The stars screamed around Rue as his ship tore apart in the black void of space. Fire and metal fragments danced in the darkness while his once mighty vessel broke into pieces. The Void Hunters had found him at last. Rue pressed his massive clawed hands against the control panel, trying to keep his ship together for just a few more seconds. Blue blood dripped from cuts on his scaled face as he fought to reach the nearest planet. His people, the Draconians, were the greatest warriors in the galaxy. They had never known defeat. They had never asked for help from anyone, but today, everything changed. The ship's hull cracked like an egg as it hit the atmosphere of the small world below. Rue could see forests and cities through the flames that covered his view screen. This was New Sol, a human colony world far from the main trade routes. The humans lived here quietly, farming and mining, staying away from the great wars that raged across the galaxy. You had always thought humans were weak. His people told stories about the small pink creatures who had no claws, no scales, no fire in their bellies. Humans used tools and machines because they were too soft to fight with their bare hands. They lived short lives and died easily. They were nothing compared to the mighty Draconians. Now, as his ship crashed through the trees and slammed into the ground, Rue realized he might have to ask these weak creatures for help. The impact threw him against the metal walls of his ship. Pain shot through his body as he felt his ribs crack. His left wing, which could normally spread 20 feet wide, was twisted and broken. The membrane between the wing bones was torn in 3 places. Blue blood poured from the wounds, staining his silver scales. Smoke filled the crashed ship. Rue could taste metal and fire in the air. His internal flame organs, which let him breathe fire like his ancestors, were damaged. Every breath felt like swallowing broken glass. He had to get out before the ship exploded. Using his good arm, Rue pulled himself through the wreckage. His legs worked, but barely. Each step sent waves of pain through his massive body. He was 12 feet tall and weighed as much as a small vehicle. His people were built for war, with thick scales that could stop bullets and claws that could cut through steel. But right now, he felt as weak as the humans he had always looked down upon. The ship's emergency hatch opened with a hiss of steam. Rue crawled outside and collapsed on the soft earth. Above him, the sky was blue and clear. 2 suns hung in the afternoon sky, casting double shadows on the ground. The air smelled of flowers and growing things, so different from the recycled air of his warship. Rue tried to stand, but fell back down. His vision blurred as more blue blood leaked from his wounds. He had been fighting the Void Hunters for 3 days straight before they finally got him. The Void Hunters were machines, built by some long-dead race to destroy all life in the galaxy. They were winning the war, planet by planet, system by system. That was why Rue had been running. He carried information about the Void Hunters' next target. If he died here, billions of lives would be lost. But first, he had to survive. The forest around him was quiet except for the sound of small birds and insects. Trees with purple leaves grew tall around the crash site. Flowers in colors he had never seen before covered the ground. It was beautiful in a way that made his warrior heart ache. Draconians lived on worlds of metal and stone, building great cities that reached toward the stars. They believed that nature was something to be conquered, not enjoyed. Looking at this peaceful forest, Rue wondered if his people had been wrong about that too. A sound made him turn his great head. In the distance, he could see lights, a human settlement. His enhanced hearing picked up the sound of vehicles and voices. They had probably seen his ship crash and were coming to investigate. Rue tried to stand again. This time he managed to get to his feet, but his left leg would not hold his full weight. He would have to find help soon, or he would die here in this beautiful forest. The irony was not lost on him. Rue had destroyed human ships in the past, following orders from his superiors who saw humans as obstacles to Draconian expansion. He had never thought of them as real people with families and dreams. They were just targets to be eliminated. Now, he needed them to save his life. His military training told him to hide, to find a cave or thick trees where he could heal in secret. But his wounds were too severe. The blue blood that flowed through his veins was pooling on the ground beneath him. His people had advanced medicine, but it was designed for their own biology. Human medicine might not work on him at all. Still, he had to try. Rue began walking toward the lights, leaving a trail of blue blood behind him. Each step was agony, but he forced himself to keep moving. His broken wing dragged on the ground, catching on roots and stones. The pain was so intense that he had to stop every few meters to rest. As he got closer to the settlement, he could see it more clearly. It was a small town with neat houses and well-kept gardens. Humans walked along the streets, going about their daily lives. Children played in yards while their parents worked. It looked so peaceful, so normal. You had seen human cities before, but only from the bridge of a warship, only as targets to be destroyed. This was the first time he had seen how humans actually lived. They seemed happy, content with their simple lives. They were not the weak, pathetic creatures his people had described. The smell of cooking food drifted through the air. Rue's stomach growled, reminding him that he had not eaten in days. His people ate meat, preferably cooked with their own flame breath. The thought of food made him feel even weaker. A human child saw him first. The little girl was playing with a ball in her yard when she looked up and saw the massive alien limping toward her town. She screamed and ran toward her house, calling for her mother. Within minutes, Rue could hear alarms ringing throughout the settlement. Humans were running in all directions, some toward their homes, others toward what looked like a military building. He could see people pointing at him and talking. Quickly into communication devices, Rue stopped walking and raised his good hand, trying to show that he meant no harm. But he knew how he must look to them, a 12-foot-tall dragon-like alien, covered in blood, approaching their peaceful town. They had every right to be afraid. The question was, would their fear overcome their humanity, or would someone be brave enough to help him? Rue would soon find out. The first place Rue reached was a military outpost on the edge of the human settlement. The building was made of gray concrete with tall walls and guard towers. Human soldiers patrolled the perimeter, carrying energy weapons that looked small in their hands but could still be dangerous. Ryu dragged himself to the main gate, leaving a trail of blue blood on the dusty ground. His broken wings scraped against the earth with each painful step. The two suns overhead made the day hot, and sweat mixed with blood on his silver scales. A guard in the tower saw him coming and immediately shouted an alarm. Within seconds, 20 soldiers ran out of the building, all pointing their weapons at Ryu. Their commander, a tall man with gray hair and hard eyes, stepped forward. "Stop right there," Commander Park yelled, his voice echoing off the walls. "Do not come any closer." Drew raised his good hand slowly, trying to show he was not a threat. He opened his mouth to speak, but only a rasping sound came out. His throat was damaged from the crash, and speaking hurt terribly. "Please," he finally managed to say, in the human language he had learned during the war. "I need help. I am wounded." "Commander." Park looked at the massive alien with suspicion and fear. He had heard stories about draconians from other worlds. They were described as ruthless warriors who showed no mercy to their enemies. This could be a trick. "I know what you are," Park said, keeping his weapon aimed at Rue's chest. "You are a draconian. Your people have attacked human colonies before. Why should we trust you?" Rue tried to take a step forward, but his injured leg gave out and he fell to one knee. More blue blood seeped from his wounds, forming a puddle beneath him. The soldiers tensed, ready to fire. "I am not here to fight," Rue said, his voice getting weaker. "My ship crashed. I carry important information about the Void Hunters. They are coming to this sector. Your people are in danger." "Commander," Park frowned. He had heard reports about the Void Hunters, the machine army that was destroying worlds across the galaxy. But he did not trust this alien, wounded or not. "Even if that is true, I cannot let you enter this base," Park said firmly. "You are too dangerous. My job is to protect the people of this colony, not to help alien warriors." "Please," Rue repeated, swaying as he knelt in the dust. "I will die without medical attention." Park looked at his soldiers. They were all staring at him, waiting for orders. Some looked nervous, others angry. None of them looked like they wanted to help the alien. "That is not my problem," Park said coldly. "Leave now, or we will open fire." Rue looked into the commander's eyes and saw no mercy there, only fear and distrust. He understood. From their perspective, he was the enemy. His people had given them every reason to hate draconians. Using his remaining strength, Rue pushed himself back to his feet. Without another word, he turned and limped away from the military base. Behind him, he could hear the soldiers talking in quick, nervous voices. "Should we follow him, sir?" one soldier asked. "No," Park replied. "Just make sure he leaves our territory. And send a message to all other settlements. Tell them there is a dangerous alien loose in the area." Ju dragged himself through the forest, toward the next human settlement. His condition was getting worse. The blue blood loss was making him dizzy, and his vision kept blurring. He had to rest every few minutes, leaning against trees to keep from falling. The second place he found was a mining facility built into the side of a small mountain. Giant machines dug tunnels into the rock, searching for precious metals and crystals. The air smelled of dust and chemicals, and the constant sound of drilling echoed through the valley. Supervisor Kim was checking the day's production reports, when one of his workers ran up to him with a terrified expression. "Sir, there is something you need to see," the worker said, pointing toward the facility entrance. Kim followed the worker outside and saw Rue collapsed near the main gate. The alien was barely conscious, his massive body heaving with each difficult breath. Blue blood stained the ground around him. "What is that thing?" Kim asked, his eyes wide with surprise and fear. "I think it is a draconian," the worker replied. "I saw pictures of them in military training videos. They are supposed to be very dangerous." Kim's mind immediately started calculating. A live draconian would be worth a fortune to collectors, researchers, or military contractors. He had heard that some people paid millions of credits for alien specimens. "Do not get too close," Kim told his workers, "but do not let it leave either." I need to make some calls. Kim went back to his office and started contacting off-world buyers. He had connections with smugglers and black market dealers who would pay well for something this rare. A wounded draconian would be easy to capture and transport. Outside, Rue sensed the humans gathering around him, but they were not offering help. They were talking about credits and profits, discussing him like he was a piece of valuable cargo. He tried to stand, but his strength was almost completely gone. We should call the colonial government, one miner suggested. There might be a bounty on these aliens. The government will just take it away from us. Kim replied. But I know people who will pay cash, no questions asked. Rue realized what was happening. These humans did not see him as a person in need of help, they saw him as a way to make money. Summoning his last reserves of strength, he forced himself to stand and stumble away from the mining facility. The miners followed him for a while, but they were not trained fighters and were afraid to get too close. Eventually, they gave up and returned to their work, disappointed that their fortune had walked away. The third place Rue found was a research station surrounded by tall white buildings and communication towers. Scientists and technicians moved between the buildings, conducting experiments and studying the planet's environment. Dr. Lee was working in her laboratory. When the security alert came through, she looked at the monitor, showing the alien approaching their facility, and immediately felt a mixture of fear and fascination. As a xenobiologist, Dr. Lee had studied many alien species, but she had never seen a live draconian before. They were one of the most mysterious and dangerous species in the galaxy. This was the opportunity of a lifetime for scientific research. But as she watched the creature stumble toward their entrance, leaving a trail of blood behind it, Dr. Lee's scientific excitement was overwhelmed by terror. What if it was carrying unknown diseases? What if it was infectious? One sick alien could wipe out their entire colony. Seal all entrances immediately. Dr. Lee ordered her staff. Activate the quarantine protocols. Do not let that thing get anywhere near our facility. Rue reached the research station's main door and pressed his face against the clear barrier. Inside, he could see humans in white coats, staring at him with wide eyes. Some were taking pictures, others were backing away in fear. Please, Rue said, his voice barely a whisper now. I need medical help. I have information about the Void Hunters. Your world is in danger. Dr. Lee heard his words through the communication system, but she was too afraid to listen. All she could think about were the diseases this alien might be carrying, the contamination that could spread through their sterile research environment. I am sorry, Dr. Lee said through the speaker system. We cannot risk contamination. You need to leave immediately. I am calling the military to escort you away from this facility. Rue stared at the humans through the barrier. He could see the fear in their eyes, but also something else. Curiosity. They wanted to study him, but they were too afraid to help him. With great effort, Rue turned away from the research station. His legs could barely carry him anymore, and his vision was getting darker with each step. He had tried 3 times to get help from humans, and 3 times he had been rejected, but he could not give up. Somewhere in this human colony, there had to be someone who would show him mercy, someone who would see past his alien appearance and help a wounded being in need. He just had to keep looking, even if it killed him. Rue's condition was getting much worse as he stumbled through the forest toward the 4th human settlement. His blue blood had stopped flowing as freely, which meant his body was shutting down to save what little life remained in him. His broken wing dragged behind him like a torn sail, catching on every branch and rock. The 2 suns were starting to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Night was coming, and Rue knew he might not survive until morning, but he had to keep trying. The information about the Void Hunters was too important to die with him. The 4th place he found was a trading post built where several roads met. Trucks and hover vehicles came and went, carrying goods between the different settlements on New Sol. The air smelled of fuel and metal, and the sound of engines filled the evening air. Merchant Han was counting the day's profits when he heard shouting from outside his building. He walked to the window and saw the most incredible sight of his life. A real draconian warrior was collapsing in his parking area, surrounded by frightened truck drivers and traders. Han's eyes lit up with excitement, but not the kind that came from wanting to help. He was thinking about money. Lots of money. A pet live draconian could make him rich beyond his wildest dreams. Everyone stay back, Han shouted as he walked outside. Do not touch it. I will handle this situation. Rue looked up at the merchant approaching him. The human had a friendly smile, but Rue could sense something wrong in his eyes. There was greed there, the same look he had seen at the mining facility. You are badly hurt, my friend, Han said in a sweet voice. Let me help you. I have medical supplies inside my building. For a moment, Rue felt hope. Finally, a human was offering to help him. He tried to stand, but his legs would not support his weight anymore. I cannot move, Rue whispered. Please, I need a doctor. Of course, Han said, still smiling. But first, you must come inside where it is safe. My workers will help you. Han signaled to his men, who brought out strong ropes and a large cart used for moving heavy cargo. Ru realized what was happening just as the ropes went around his body. "Wait," Ru said, trying to struggle. "What are you doing?" "Making us both rich," Han replied, his friendly mask falling away. "Do you know how much collectors will pay for a live draconian?" "Enough to buy my own planet." Ju tried to fight back, but he was too weak. His claws scraped uselessly against the concrete as Han's men dragged him toward a large shipping container. They were going to lock him up and sell him like a piece of cargo, but Ru was still a warrior, even if he was dying. With the last of his strength, he breathed out a small jet of flame from his damaged fire organs. The flame was not hot enough to kill, but it was enough to make the humans drop their ropes and run away screaming. Ru rolled away from the container and crawled toward the forest. Behind him, Han was shouting at his workers to catch the alien, but they were too afraid of getting burned. "You fools!" Han yelled. "Do you know how much money just crawled away?" But Ru was already gone, disappearing into the dark trees as night fell over New Seoul. The fifth place Ru found was Harmony Township, a small farming community built around a central square. Neat houses with flower gardens lined the quiet streets. Children's toys were scattered in yards, and the smell of home-cooked meals drifted from kitchen windows. Mayor Song was having dinner with his family when someone knocked urgently on his door. He opened it to find Mrs. Park, one of his neighbors, with a terrified expression on her face. "Mayor Song, you need to come quickly," she said. "There is a monster in the town square." Song followed her outside and saw Ru collapsed near the fountain. In the center of town, a crowd of people had gathered at a safe distance, whispering and pointing at the alien. Song was a kind man who had been elected because he cared about his community. Looking at the wounded creature, he felt sorry for it, but he also felt afraid for his people. "What do you think we should do?" asked Mr. Kim, who ran the local store. "We cannot just leave it there," said Mrs. Lee, who taught at the town school. "It looks like it is dying." Song walked closer to Ru, staying just out of reach of his claws. The alien's breathing was very shallow, and his eyes were barely open. "Can you understand me?" Song asked gently. Drew opened his eyes and looked at the mayor. This human seemed different from the others. There was kindness in his voice and no greed in his eyes. "Yes," Ru whispered. "I speak your language. I need help." "What happened to you?" Song asked. "My ship crashed. I am wounded. I carry important information about an invasion that is coming to this sector." Song looked back at his people. They were all watching him, waiting to see what he would do. Some looked sympathetic, others frightened. All of them trusted him to make the right decision for their community. "I want to help you," Song said honestly, "but I have to think about my people first. If I let you stay here, it might bring danger to our town. The military might come, there might be fighting." Ru understood the mayor's position. Thong was a leader, just like Ru had been among his own people. The leader's first duty was always to protect those under his care. "I understand," Ru said quietly. Song went back to his house and returned with food, water, and basic medical supplies. He set them down near Ru but did not come too close. "This is all I can do for you," Song said with genuine sadness in his voice. "You cannot stay here, but I will not let you leave with nothing." Ru ate the food gratefully. It was simple human food, bread and cooked vegetables, but it gave him a little strength. The water helped clear his throat, and the bandages stopped some of his smaller wounds from bleeding. "Thank you for your kindness," Ru said as he prepared to leave. "You are a good leader." Song watched the alien disappear into the darkness and wondered if he had made the right choice. His heart told him to do more, but his head told him to protect his town. The sixth place Ru found was a farming commune outside the main settlements. Families worked together to grow food and raise animals, sharing everything they produced. It was a peaceful place where people had chosen to live simply and help each other. Elder Choi was the oldest person in the commune, and everyone respected his wisdom. When Ru collapsed near their main building, Choi was the first to approach him. "My goodness," Choi said, looking at the wounded alien. "You are in terrible condition." Unlike the others, Choi was not afraid. He had lived a long life and seen many strange things. He knelt down beside Ru and examined his wounds with experienced eyes. "I was a medic in the war many years ago," Choi said. "These injuries are very serious. You need surgery to survive." "Will you help me?" Ru asked. Hopefully. Choi looked thoughtful. "I want to help you, but this decision affects everyone here. We must vote as a community." Choi called all the families together for an emergency meeting. They gathered in their common hall, about 50 people of all ages. The children sat with their parents while the adults discussed what to do. "This alien is dying," Choi explained. "I believe we have a moral duty to help any suffering being, regardless of what species they are." "But what if it is dangerous?" asked Farmer Jin. "What if helping it puts our children at risk? What if other aliens come looking for it?" asked Mother Yu. "We are not soldiers. We cannot defend ourselves against an invasion." The debate went on for an hour. Some people wanted to help, others were afraid. Finally, they took a vote. The result was 28 against helping, 22 in favor. Choi returned to where Rue was waiting. The old man looked sad as he knelt beside the alien again. I am sorry, Choi said softly. I wanted to help you, but our community has decided it is too dangerous. Democracy sometimes means that fear wins over compassion. I understand, Rue replied. You gave me a chance to be heard. That is more than most have done. Choi gave Rue some pain medicine and fresh bandages before the alien left. As Rue disappeared into the night, Choi wondered if their community had just failed its greatest test of humanity. Ryu was now weaker than ever, but he could not give up. Somewhere on this world, there had to be humans who would help him. He just had to find them before his strength ran out completely. The night was cold and dark, as Rue dragged himself through the forest toward his 7th attempt at finding help. His body was shutting down piece by piece. The blue blood had mostly stopped flowing, but that only meant he was closer to death. His vision kept going black for several seconds at a time, and his massive heart was beating irregularly. But he could not give up. Not when billions of lives depended on the information he carried about the Void Hunter invasion. The 7th place he found was a fuel depot where ships came to refill their energy tanks before traveling to other worlds. The facility was built like a fortress, with thick walls and armed guards, because fuel was valuable and pirates sometimes tried to steal it. Captain Nam was doing his final inspection of the day when the security alarms started ringing. He rushed to the control room and saw something incredible on the security monitors. A draconian was crawling toward their main gate. Sir, what should we do? Asked his security chief. Nam stared at the screen with growing excitement. He was not thinking about helping the wounded alien. He was thinking about his career in the military. Capturing a live draconian would make him famous throughout the galaxy. Get the capture nets and stun weapons, Nam ordered. This alien might have valuable military information. We are going to take it alive. Nam and his security team went outside with their equipment. Rue saw them coming and tried to stand, but his legs would not work anymore. He could only lie on the ground and watch as the humans surrounded him. Draconian warrior, Nam said in a commanding voice, you are now my prisoner. Surrender peacefully and you will not be harmed. I am not here to fight, Rue said weakly. I need medical help. I have information about the Void Hunters. You can tell us about that after we have you secured, Nam replied. My government will want to question you thoroughly. The security team threw an energy net over Rue. The net was designed to hold dangerous criminals, and it sent small electric shocks through his body. Rue cried out in pain as the electricity made his wounds hurt even more. Stop, Rue gasped. I am trying to help you. The Void Hunters are coming to this sector. Your people will die if you do not listen. But Nam was not interested in listening. He was only thinking about the promotion he would get for capturing an enemy alien. He ordered his men to drag Rue toward a holding cell inside the depot. Rue knew this was his last chance to escape. If they locked him up, he would die in a cell, and the Void Hunter information would die with him. Using every bit of strength he had left, Drew breathed fire at the energy net. His flame organs were badly damaged, but they still worked enough to melt through the net. The metal wires broke apart and Drew rolled free. Nam's men scattered. Afraid of getting burned, shoot it, Nam yelled. Do not let it escape. Energy blasts hit the ground around Rue as he crawled toward the forest. One blast hit his already broken wing, tearing the membrane even more, but he kept moving until he disappeared into the dark trees. Behind him, Nam was screaming at his men for letting their prize get away. The 8th place Rue found nearly broke his spirit completely. It was a small research outpost run by Dr. Yoon, a xenobiologist who studied alien life forms. She had been on New Sol for 5 years, learning about the local plants and animals. Ryu collapsed outside her laboratory. Just as the sun was rising, Dr. Yoon found him there when she came to work, and for a moment, she just stared in amazement. She had studied draconians from far away, but she had never seen one up close. Incredible, she whispered, looking at his scales and wing structure. You are even more magnificent than I imagined. Rue opened his eyes and saw the human woman studying him with scientific interest. There was no fear in her eyes, which gave him hope. Please, he said quietly, I need medical attention. Dr. Yoon knelt down beside him and began examining his wounds with professional skill. She took out her medical scanner and checked his vital signs. Your injuries are severe, she said. You have internal bleeding, wing fractures, and what looks like damage to your flame-producing organs. Can you help me? Rue asked. Dr. Yoon was quiet for a long moment. Then her expression changed, becoming cold and distant. I know what you are, she said. You are a draconian warrior. 3 years ago, your people destroyed the research ship I was working on. My colleagues, my friends, they all died when your warships attacked us. Ju felt his heart sink. Here was someone who understood his biology, who could actually help him, but she had personal reasons to hate his entire species. I am sorry for your loss, Rue said honestly. Not all of my people supported those attacks. Some of us believed the war was wrong, but you did not stop it, did you? Dr. Yoon replied bitterly. You just followed orders like a good soldier. She was right, and Rue knew it. He had been part of the military machine that had destroyed human lives. He had no right to ask for mercy from someone who had suffered because of his people's actions. Dr. Yoon treated his wounds with basic medical supplies, but she worked quickly and coldly, like she was fixing a broken machine, instead of helping a living being. This will keep you alive for a few more hours, she said when she was finished, but I cannot do more than that. I will not save the life of someone whose people killed my friends. She went back into her laboratory and locked the door, leaving Rue alone outside. He understood her pain and her anger, but it still hurt to be rejected by someone who could have saved him. The ninth place Rue found was a communication array built on top of a hill. Giant satellite dishes pointed toward the sky, sending and receiving messages from other worlds. The facility was run by tech specialist Kang, a young man who loved working with advanced technology. Kang was adjusting one of the satellites when he saw something moving slowly up the hill toward his station. At first he thought it was some kind of large animal, but as it got closer, he realized it was an alien. Kang had always been fascinated by other species and their technology. He had dreamed of making contact with advanced alien civilizations. Now, one had literally crawled to his doorstep. This is amazing, Kang said to himself as he watched Rue approach. A real alien, right here on New Seoul. When Rue finally reached the communication station, he was barely conscious. His breathing was so shallow that Kang had to look closely to see if he was still alive. Hello, Kang said nervously. Can you understand me? Rue opened his eyes with great effort. Yes, I need help. Please, what are you? Where did you come from? Kang asked, his scientific curiosity overcoming his caution. I am Draconian. My ship crashed. I carry important information about an invasion. Kang's excitement grew. This was first contact with an advanced alien species. He could become famous throughout the galaxy for this discovery. But as Kang looked more closely at the alien, he began to recognize what species it was. He had heard stories about Draconians, about how dangerous they were, about the wars they had fought with humans. Fear began to replace excitement in Kang's mind. What if this was a trick? What if more Draconians were coming? What if helping this one put the entire colony in danger? I need to report this, Kang said, backing away from Rue. The authorities should know about this. Please, Rue whispered. Just listen to what I have to say about the Void Hunters. But Kang was already inside his station, sending emergency messages to the colonial government and the military. He had chosen safety over curiosity, fear over compassion. You lay outside the communication station as the morning sun grew hot overhead. 9 times he had asked for help. 9 times he had been rejected. He was dying, and soon the crucial information about the Void Hunter invasion would die with him. But there was still one more door to try. Somewhere on this world, there had to be one human who would show mercy to a dying enemy. Rue had to believe that, or everything was lost. With his last reserves of strength, he began crawling down the hill toward what he hoped would be his final attempt to find help among the humans of New Seoul. Rue could barely move anymore. His massive body felt like it weighed as much as a mountain, and every breath was a struggle. The trail of blue blood behind him had dried up because there was almost no blood left in his body. His vision was fading, in and out, and he knew he was very close to death. But he kept crawling. One more door. Just one more chance. The 10th place he found was different from all the others. It was not a military base, or research station, or business. It was just a simple house at the edge of the colony, surrounded by a small garden where vegetables grew in neat rows. The house was made of wood and stone, painted blue with white trim around the windows. Flowers grew in boxes under the windows, and a wooden swing hung from a tree in the front yard. It looked like the kind of place where a family lived quietly and happily. Rue collapsed on the front steps just as his strength finally gave out completely. He could not move another inch. This was where he would die, on the doorstep of strangers who probably would not help him either. But at least he had tried. At least he had not given up. Inside the house, June was making breakfast for himself and his teenage daughter, Hannah. June was a former combat medic who had lost his left leg in a war on another world 5 years ago. Now he walked with a metal prosthetic leg and worked as a civilian doctor for the colonists. Hannah was 17 years old, smart and curious about everything. She dreamed of becoming a pilot someday and flying ships between the stars. She was setting the table when she heard a loud thump outside. "Dad, what was that?" she asked. June limped to the window and looked outside. At first, he could not believe what he was seeing. A huge alien creature was lying unconscious on their front steps, covered in dried blood and terrible wounds. "Hannah, stay inside," June said firmly. "Lock the door and do not come out, no matter what happens." "What is it, Dad?" Hannah asked, trying to look over his shoulder. "I think it is a Draconian," June replied, "and it is badly hurt." June had treated wounded soldiers from many different species during the war. He had learned that pain and suffering looked the same no matter what kind of body it happened in. When he saw the alien on his steps, he did not see a fearsome warrior or a dangerous enemy. He saw a patient who needed help. June grabbed his medical bag and went outside. He approached Rue carefully, checking to see if the alien was still alive. Rue's breathing was very weak, but his heart was still beating. "Hello," June said gently. "Can you hear me?" Rue opened his eyes slowly. He expected to see fear or anger in the human's face, like all the others. Instead, he saw concern and professional evaluation, the look of a healer examining a patient. "I am dying," Rue whispered. "Not if I can help it," June replied. "I am a doctor. Let me look at your wounds." June began examining Rue with skilled hands, checking his injuries and vital signs. The alien was in terrible condition, much worse than any patient June had ever treated. But he had sworn an oath as a medic to help anyone who needed medical care, regardless of who they were. "Hannah," June called to his daughter. "I need your help." "But Dad, you said to stay inside," Hannah replied through the locked door. "I changed my mind. This being is going to die if we do not help him right now." Hannah unlocked the door and came outside. When she saw Rue up close, she gasped and took a step backward. He was enormous, with silver scales, sharp claws, and a face that looked like a dragon from ancient stories. "Do not be afraid," June told his daughter. "He is just a patient who needs our help." "But Dad, he is a draconian. They are supposed to be dangerous." "Right now, he is too weak to hurt anyone," June said. "And even if he could, I do not think he would. Look at his eyes." Hannah looked into Rue's eyes and saw something she did not expect. There was intelligence there, and sadness, and gratitude. He did not look like a monster. He looked like someone who was in pain and needed help. "What do you need me to do?" Hannah asked. Together, June and Hannah managed to drag Rue inside their house. It was not easy because he weighed so much, but they worked together and got him onto a large mat in their living room. June had converted part of his house into a small medical clinic where he treated colonists who lived too far from the main hospital. He had surgical equipment, medicine, and everything he needed to save lives. For the next 3 days, June worked almost non-stop to keep Rue alive. He repaired torn blood vessels, set broken bones, and stitched up cuts in the alien's wing membranes. Hannah helped by bringing supplies, monitoring Rue's vital signs, and making sure her father ate and rested. It was the hardest medical case June had ever worked on. Draconian biology was different from human biology in many ways. Their blood was blue instead of red. Their bones were denser, and their organs were arranged differently. But pain was pain, and healing was healing, no matter what species you were treating. On the second day, Rue regained consciousness for the first time since arriving. He found himself lying in a comfortable bed, covered with clean blankets. His wounds had been properly treated and bandaged. An IV tube was connected to his arm, giving him fluids and medicine. June was sitting in a chair beside the bed, reading a medical book. When he saw that Rue was awake, he smiled. "Welcome back," June said. "You gave us quite a scare. How do you feel?" Rue tried to sit up, but June gently pushed him back down. "Stay still," June said. "You are not strong enough to move around yet. You lost a lot of blood and had serious internal injuries." "Why are you helping me?" Rue asked, confused. "Your people have every reason to hate mine." June was quiet for a moment. "When I was a combat medic, I treated soldiers from both sides of the war, human soldiers, alien soldiers. It did not matter. When someone is hurt and needs help, that is all I see. A patient, but I am your enemy," Rue said. "Right now, you are my patient," June replied firmly. "That is all that matters to me." Hannah came into the room carrying a bowl of soup. She was still a little nervous around Rue, but she was getting used to having an alien in their house. "I made some broth," she said. "Dad thinks it might help you get stronger." Rue looked at the young human girl who was offering him food. 3 days ago, she had been afraid of him. Now she was taking care of him like he was part of her family. "Thank you," Rue said quietly. "Both of you. I do not understand why you are being so kind to me, because that is what decent people do," Hannah said simply. "They help others when they can." Over the next day, as Rue grew stronger, he began to tell June and Hannah about himself. He explained about the Void Hunters, the machine army that was destroying worlds across the galaxy. He told them about the crucial information he carried, about the planned invasion of their sector. "We have to warn the authorities," June said. "If what you are saying is true, millions of people are in danger." "I tried to tell them," Rue replied sadly. "But no one would listen. They all saw me as an enemy or a threat. You are the first humans who have shown me kindness." Hannah was fascinated by Rue's stories about life among the stars. She asked him questions about other worlds, about space travel, about what it was like to fly between the planets. "Your people think humans are weak," Hannah said, "but you do not seem to think that anymore." Rue looked at the teenage girl who had helped save his life, and at her father who had worked for 3 days straight to heal a stranger from an enemy species. "I was wrong about humans," Rue said honestly. "I thought strength meant having big claws and breathing fire. But I have learned that real strength is choosing to help someone even when you have every reason not to. Your people have a kind of courage that my people do not understand. What do you mean? June asked. My people are brave in battle, Rue explained. We do not fear death or pain when we are fighting, but you have something different. You have the courage to show mercy to your enemies. That takes a different kind of bravery. As Rue recovered in the safety of June's house, he began to see humans in a completely new way. They were not the weak, pathetic creatures his people had described. They were something much more dangerous to the draconian way of thinking. They were compassionate. Over the next week, something unexpected happened in June's small house. The three of them, 2 humans and 1 alien, began to feel like a family. Rue was amazed by how the humans lived. June never asked for payment or reward for saving his life. Every morning, the former medic would check Rue's wounds, change his bandages, and give him medicine, all without expecting anything in return. In my culture, Rue told June one morning, when someone saves your life, you owe them a debt that can never be repaid. You could ask me to serve you for the rest of my life, and I would have to do it. June laughed. That sounds complicated. I helped you because you needed help. I do not want you to owe me anything. But why? Rue asked, genuinely confused. What do you gain from this? I gain the knowledge that I did the right thing. June replied simply. Sometimes that is enough. Hannah was fascinated by Rue's stories about life in space. Every evening she would sit beside his bed and listen to him describe the different worlds he had visited, the strange creatures he had seen, and the vast emptiness between the stars. What is it like to fly faster than light? She asked one night. It is like falling through a tunnel made of stars, Rue replied. Time moves differently, and you can see colors that do not exist in normal space. It is beautiful and terrifying at the same time. I want to be a pilot someday, Hannah said dreamily. I want to see all those worlds you talk about. You would make a good pilot, Rue said. You have the curiosity and courage that space travel requires. Rue told them about his home world, about the great cities of metal and stone that reached toward the sky. He described the warrior culture of his people, how they valued strength and honor above all else. It sounds lonely, Hannah said. Do draconians ever just have fun? Do you play games or tell jokes or celebrate holidays? Rue thought about this for a long time. We have ceremonies to honor our warriors and our ancestors. But fun, as you describe it, is considered a waste of time. We are taught that life is about duty and strength. That is sad, June said. Life should be about more than just fighting and being strong. What is it about for humans? Rue asked. Family, June said immediately. Love, helping others, finding happiness in small things, building something better for the next generation. Rue looked at Hannah, who was working on her homework while sitting near his bed so she could keep him company. June was in the kitchen making dinner, humming a song under his breath. They were not warriors or rulers or great leaders. They were just ordinary people living ordinary lives. But they had something that Rue had never experienced in his 300 years of life. They had peace. I understand now why my people fear humans, Rue said quietly. Fear us? Hannah asked, looking up from her homework. But you are so much stronger than we are. Physical strength is not everything, Rue replied. You have something that could destroy our entire way of life if it spread to our people. What is that? June asked, from the kitchen. The idea that there are more important things than being the strongest or the most feared, Rue said. If my people learned to value kindness over conquest, our warrior culture would collapse. On the 10th day after Rue's arrival, their peaceful routine was interrupted. Hannah was the first to notice the vehicles approaching their house. Dad, she called. There are military trucks coming up our road. June looked out the window and saw a convoy of colonial military vehicles heading toward their house. Someone had finally tracked down the alien that had been asking for help throughout the colony. They found me, Rue said, trying to sit up in his bed. I should go. I do not want to bring trouble to your family. You are not going anywhere, June said firmly. You are still recovering from major surgery. Moving around too much could kill you. But if they find me here, you could be arrested for harboring an enemy alien. Rue protested. Then we will face that together, Hannah said. Standing beside her father, Rue stared at them in amazement. They were willing to risk imprisonment or worse to protect him. In his warrior culture, such loyalty was only shown to family or close comrades who had fought together in battle. But these humans were willing to sacrifice themselves for someone they had known for barely a week. The military vehicles stopped outside the house. Commander Park, the same officer who had turned Rue away from the military base, got out of the lead truck with 20 armed soldiers behind him. Tark knocked on the door with his fist. Open up. We know the alien is in there. June opened the door, but he did not step aside to let the soldiers enter. Can I help you? Commander, we have reports of a dangerous draconian being seen in this area. Park said, we need to search your house. Do you have a warrant? June asked calmly. I do not need a warrant to search for an enemy combatant, Park replied. Step aside. No, June said firmly. The soldiers raised their weapons, pointing them at June. Hannah came to stand beside her father, even though she was clearly frightened. "You are obstructing a military operation," Park warned. "Move aside, or we will move you." "The being you are looking for is my patient," June said. "He is recovering from life-threatening injuries. I will not let you harm him." From inside the house, Rue could hear the confrontation. These humans were risking everything to protect him, just as he had once risked everything to protect his own people. But his people had never shown such courage when it came to protecting others. "I do not understand," one of the young soldiers whispered to his companion. "Why would they protect an alien?" "Because it is the right thing to do," Hannah said, overhearing him. "When someone needs help, you help them. It does not matter what species they are." Commander Park was getting impatient. "You have 10 seconds to step aside, or we will arrest you both and take the alien by force." "Then you will have to arrest us," June said quietly, "because I will not abandon my patient." Park raised his hand to signal his soldiers to advance. But before he could give the order, alarm sirens began wailing throughout the colony. Emergency broadcasts started playing from speakers in the military vehicles. "Attention all citizens," the voice said. "We are under attack by unknown hostile forces. All military personnel report to your stations immediately. This is not a drill." Park listened to his radio with growing alarm. Reports were coming in from all over the colony. Strange ships had appeared in the sky, ships that looked like nothing anyone had ever seen before. They were attacking the spaceport, the communication centers, and the power plants. "Sir," one of his soldiers said urgently. "Command is ordering all units to defend the main settlement. We need to go now." Park looked at June and Hannah, then at the house where he knew the alien was hiding. He had a choice to make. He could waste time arresting these people and capturing one wounded alien. Or he could protect the colony from whatever was attacking them. "This is not over," Park told June. Then he ordered his soldiers back to their vehicles, and the convoy raced away toward the sounds of battle. Inside the house, Rue struggled to get out of bed, despite his injuries. "What are you doing?" June asked. "You need to rest. Those are Void Hunter ships," Rue said grimly. "The invasion has begun. If I do not help fight them, everyone on this world will die." "You can barely stand," Hannah protested. "How can you fight?" Rue looked at the two humans, who had saved his life and shown him what true courage meant. "I may not be at full strength, but I have something the Void Hunters do not expect." "What is that?" June asked. "I have learned the human way of fighting," Rue said, "not just with weapons, but with heart." The sky above New Sol was filled with death. Void Hunter ships moved like black shadows against the blue atmosphere, their weapons cutting through the air with beams of destructive energy. The machines had no interest in conquest or negotiation. They only wanted to destroy all life on the planet. Drew stood outside June's house. Still weak from his injuries but determined to fight, his broken wing was wrapped in medical bandages, and his scales still showed the marks of his crash landing. But his eyes burned with purpose. "I have to get to the communication center," he told June and Hannah. "The humans need to know what they are really fighting." "You can barely walk," June protested. "Let me drive you there." "It is too dangerous," Rue replied. "You should stay here and hide." "We are coming with you," Hannah said firmly. "You helped save our world by bringing this information. Now we are going to help you save it." Rue looked at the two humans who had become like family to him. In his warrior culture, civilians stayed far away from battles. But these humans were different. They did not run from danger when others needed help. "Very well," Rue said, "but stay close to me. The Void Hunters will kill anything that moves." They climbed into June's medical vehicle and drove toward the center of the colony. All around them, buildings were on fire and people were running in panic. The Void Hunter ships moved overhead like predators, hunting for any sign of life. When they reached the communication center, they found it under heavy attack. Tech specialist Kung, the same man who had refused to help Rue, was trying to get the emergency broadcast system working while Void Hunter drones attacked his facility. Kong Jun shouted as they ran toward the building. "We need to use your equipment." Kong saw them coming, and his eyes went wide when he recognized Rue. "What is that thing doing here?" "Trying to save your life," Rue replied. "The Void Hunters are not just attacking randomly. They have a specific plan, and I know what it is." Another explosion rocked the building as Void Hunter drones tried to destroy the communication array. Kong realized that his prejudice against the alien was less important than surviving the attack. "What do you need?" Kang asked. "Access to the colony's defense network," Rue said, "and a way to contact the other worlds in this sector." Kong led them into the communication center's main control room. The equipment was damaged but still working. Rue sat down at the main console, his clawed fingers moving across the human controls with surprising skill. "The Void Hunters always follow the same pattern," Rue explained as he worked. "First, they destroy communication and power systems to isolate their targets. Then they attack the spaceport to prevent anyone from escaping. Finally, they release gas into the atmosphere to kill all organic life." "How do we stop them?" Kung asked. "By doing something they do not expect," Rue replied. "Working together. Ju began broadcasting on frequencies that only Draconian ships could receive. Within minutes, he had made contact with his own people's forces in nearby star systems. "This is Ru of the Flame Wing Squadron," he said in his own language. "I am requesting immediate assistance. The Void Hunters are attacking New Sol." The response came quickly. "Ru, you are listed as missing in action. What is your status?" "I am alive and fighting alongside human forces," Drew replied. "We need Draconian ships here immediately." There was a long pause. "Did you say you were fighting with humans?" "Yes," Ru said firmly. "They saved my life when I was wounded. Now I am returning the favor." While Ru coordinated with his people, Jun was using his medical knowledge to help the human defenders. Many colonists had been injured in the attacks, and the main hospital was destroyed. Jun set up a field medical station right in the communication center. Hannah helped her father treat the wounded, but she also did something else. She used her knowledge of the colony's computer systems to hack into the Void Hunter drone's communication network. "Dad, I think I can disrupt their coordination," she said excitedly. "If we can scramble their signals, they will not be able to work together effectively." "Do it," Jun said as he bandaged a wounded soldier's arm. Hannah's fingers flew over the computer keyboard. She had always been good with technology, but now she was using her skills to save lives. Within minutes, she had created a virus that spread through the Void Hunter network, causing their drones to malfunction and crash. "It is working," Kong shouted. "The drones are falling out of the sky." But the main Void Hunter ships were still attacking, and they were too big to be stopped by computer viruses. The colony's defense system was failing, and it looked like the battle was lost. Then the sky lit up with new explosions. Draconian warships had arrived, their sleek forms cutting through the atmosphere like silver arrows. The two most powerful military forces in the galaxy were about to fight side by side for the first time in history. "This is Flamewing Leader. To all human forces, Ru broadcast on the human military frequency. We are here to help. Coordinate your attacks with our ships." Commander Park, who was directing the defense from the main military base, could not believe what he was hearing. "Draconian ships are offering to help us." "Yes," Ru replied, "because we have learned that some things are more important than old conflicts, like protecting innocent lives." The battle that followed was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Human fighters, small and fast, darted between the massive Void Hunter ships, creating openings for the Draconian warships to attack with their powerful weapons. The Draconians used their superior technology to shield human settlements from Void Hunter attacks. Jun coordinated medical relief efforts, making sure that both human and Draconian wounded received treatment. Hannah continued her cyber warfare against the Void Hunter systems, disabling their weapons and communications, and Ru, despite his injuries, became the bridge between two species that had been enemies for generations. "Human Fighter Squad, this is Draconian Wing Commander Drac," came a voice over the radio. "We are moving to attack the main Void Hunter mothership. Can you provide covering fire?" "Copy that, Wing Commander," replied a human pilot. "We have your back." The cooperation between the two species was perfect. They covered each other's weaknesses and amplified each other's strengths. The Void Hunters, who had been programmed to fight individual species, could not adapt to this new kind of warfare. One by one, the Void Hunter ships were destroyed. The last mothership tried to escape, but it was caught between a Draconian battlecruiser and a squadron of human fighters. It exploded in a brilliant flash of light, marking the end of the invasion. As the smoke cleared over New Sol, something unprecedented happened. Draconian and human ships landed side by side at the colony's damaged spaceport. Warriors from both species worked together to search for survivors and put out fires. Ru stood in the communication center, exhausted but victorious. Around him, humans and Draconians were talking to each other, sharing medical supplies, and planning the cleanup efforts. The sight would have been impossible to imagine just a few weeks ago. Commander Park approached Ru, his expression a mixture of shame and respect. "I owe you an apology," he said. "When you came to my base, asking for help, I should have listened. You were protecting your people." Ru replied, "I understand that now. But perhaps next time, we can protect each other." Park nodded. "I think that would be better for everyone." Wing Commander Drac, the Draconian officer who had led the rescue fleet, landed at the communication center to meet with Ru. Drac was an old friend who had fought beside Ru in many battles. Drac said in the Draconian language, "What you have done here goes against everything our people believe. Working with humans, accepting their help, treating them as equals. The High Command will not be pleased." "Then the High Command needs to learn what I have learned," Ju replied. "These humans are not weak. They are strong in ways we never understood." "What do you mean?" Drac asked. Ru gestured toward Jun, who was treating a wounded Draconian soldier with the same care he had shown Ru. "Watch him. He is healing a warrior from a species that has been his enemy for years. He asks for nothing in return. He does this because it is right." Drac watched in amazement as other humans brought food and water to the Draconian warriors, sharing their supplies without being asked. And look at her, Rue continued, pointing to Hannah, who was teaching a young draconian technician how to use human computer systems. She has no fear, even though my people once destroyed ships like the one her father served on. She sees past old conflicts to work toward a better future. This is difficult to understand, Drac admitted. Our culture teaches that showing mercy to enemies is weakness. Our culture is wrong, Rue said firmly. True strength is not about conquering others. It is about choosing to help them, even when you have every reason not to. Over the following days, as New Sol was rebuilt, something beautiful began to happen. Humans and Draconians worked side by side, sharing their different skills and knowledge. Draconian technology helped repair the damaged buildings faster, while human medical techniques saved lives that would have been lost. June's small house became an unofficial embassy, where representatives from both species came to discuss this new cooperation. Rue had decided to stay on New Sol, becoming the first Draconian to officially live among humans. I cannot go back to my old life, Rue told June and Hannah one evening as they sat together in their garden. After experiencing your kindness, I cannot return to a culture based on conquest and domination. Then stay here, Hannah said simply. You are part of our family now. But what about your people? June asked. Will they not want you to return? Some will, Rue replied, but others are beginning to ask questions. Young Draconians especially are curious about this new alliance. They want to know how humans can be brave enough to help their enemies. And what do you tell them? Hannah asked. I tell them the truth, Rue said. That I knocked on 9 doors and found fear. I knocked on the 10th door and found family. And that sometimes the greatest victories come not from defeating your enemies, but from making them your friends. Months later, Rue sent a message that was broadcast throughout the Draconian Empire. It was a simple message, but it changed everything. To my people, he said, I have lived among humans for many months now. I have seen their courage, their compassion, their willingness to sacrifice for others. We have called them weak because they choose cooperation over conquest. We have been wrong. The humans of New Sol taught me that true warriors do not just protect their own people. They protect all people who need protection. They do not just show loyalty to their friends. They show mercy to their enemies. I have learned that the strongest walls are not built from stone and metal. They are built from trust and friendship. The greatest weapons are not claws and fire. They are kindness and understanding. We Draconians pride ourselves on being the greatest warriors in the galaxy. But perhaps it is time we learn to be something else. Perhaps it is time we learn to be the greatest protectors in the galaxy. The humans showed me mercy when I was dying. They asked for nothing in return. Now I asked my people to consider this. What if we measured our strength not by how many worlds we could conquer, but by how many worlds we could save? What if the greatest victory of all would be to have no more enemies, but only friends? The message sparked debate throughout the Draconian Empire. Some called Drew a traitor. Others called him a visionary. But slowly, gradually, things began to change. Young Draconians began asking to serve on joint missions with human crews. Trade agreements replaced conflict. The first Draconian students enrolled in human universities, while human scientists were invited to study Draconian technology was not a perfect peace. There were still those on both sides who preferred the old ways of distrust and conflict. But for the first time in generations, there was hope for something better. And in a small house on New Sol, 3 unlikely friends sat together each evening, sharing stories and planning for a future where the strongest beings in the galaxy would be those who chose to help rather than harm. RY, you would learn the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the greatest strength comes from admitting you were wrong and having the courage to change. The wounded dragon, who had knocked on 10 doors, had not just found sanctuary, he had found a new way of living that would transform to entire civilizations. And it all began with one simple act of human kindness.